Mm-hmm.
Hello, and welcome to Wine, Whiskey, and Words. I'm Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
This is Brad. If you've listened to our podcast before, welcome back. If you're new, each episode we try a different drink. Usually it's wine or whiskey. Sometimes we try something else, but lately it's been on a bit of a wine kick, I think. We talk about something interesting that we've seen since the last episode.
Or at least we think it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, your agreement that it's interesting is beyond our concern. And then we finally talk about the topic we decided on the previous episode. We do our best to prep and research topics. Sometimes we hit it. Sometimes it's a swing and a miss. But, we try.
It is what it is.
We're really just here to have a fun and interesting time, and we're glad you're along for us with this journey. With that said, let's begin. This week, I tried to go international and chose a wine and then did not prepare by choosing a wine that's from Spain.
So we do know it's a wine.
It's red.
And it's red, and it's from Spain.
It's in a bottle.
Is it a Rioja?
It's
the other one's a Rioja.
Yeah, I did bring an emergency bottle in case this one is not what I was hoping for.
But the ratings on this one seem to be a little bit better.
Yes, this is a Matilda Nieves. I hope I am pronouncing this right.
Probably not.
And it says Mencía. I don't know what that means.
Like Carlos Mencía?
Yeah, maybe. It doesn't actually say what kind of wine it is. It's a red one. It is a 2020. So Collietta, is that a kind of wine?
Let me see.
I don't know. It says things on the back.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, so it says lots of things in Spanish. The guy at the liquor store said it was really good.
It's a wine. I know that much.
Okay, well, let's just go with that. Don't spill it on your laptop, man.
Oh, is it? Oh, I didn't know it was open.
Yeah, I opened it. I prepared. So with that said, we're gonna do a little pour. We're gonna pour and hope for the best. Yeah, I pre-opened because Brad caught me opening once before, and I didn't want to run into that problem again. All right. So what do you think, Brad?
Little earthy, little bit of barnyard at first on the nose.
Yeah, a little bit.
Raspberry.
I get a little cinnamon out of the back of that.
Yeah.
It's got a nice, pretty color. It's very dark. Very, incredibly dark.
It's very acidic. Tingle on the side of the tongue, which I don't mind.
Oh, I think that's nice. I like that acidity. It's not tart, but I see
it is a little tart.
But it's not like crazy tart.
No, it's not crazy tart.
But yeah, but it's smooth and tart at the same time. If that can be true.
It can be true.
Okay, see, I know this much is true. I really wanted Brad to sing there, and he just let me down completely. Very disappointed. So.
I know this wine is true.
Oh, look at him mixing it up.
You have to. You can't. You got to make it your own.
Well, I'm gonna launch into. This is not really the interesting thing that I was going to go with, but I forgot it. Never mind. Not gonna go with that.
Really?
Yep. I already forgot.
Okay.
All right. What happened to you that was interesting? Maybe I'll remember.
Well, we had my Aunt Mickey's funeral last week, and so I'm sitting at the dining room table that I grew up eating at home. This is the day of the funeral. Afterwards, we're all at the house, and this freak storm comes up, and all of a sudden, there's a big flash of light. You heard, and then the flash of light, and my head rocked back. It was the light went out right at the dining room table.
Oh my God.
The power stayed on. But I mean, we knew that the lightning strikes were getting somewhat close, but it either hit the house or it hit right around the house. And then I said to my mom's boyfriend, Cliff, I said, it blew the light. And he went over to it. He turned it off and on and went right back on. It
Weird.
was really weird. So we said that was my aunt making her presence
And
known.
she that was her,
Yeah.
her last hurrah. She was like,
Yeah.
I'm turning the lights off.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know how to follow that one up. I really feel like I had something good in the cannon there, and it left me.
You know what? You're just in my shadow.
Yeah, I'm never gonna be as cool as you, Brad.
This is true.
But no, I think the coolest thing that's happened to me since the last episode is this past weekend. My parents came down to the Tampa area, and we went to a Rays game. And when I ordered the tickets, I knew it was summer, but I didn't think about the fact that the Rays Stadium is actually the only year-round enclosed stadium in Major League Baseball. And let me tell you, it is a delight. When it's hot outside, like it was Saturday, going into a 72-degree air-conditioned stadium is just lovely. And if you're ever in the Tampa Bay area and the Rays are playing, I highly recommend it. It's very clean. Lots of food and drink options, like anything you can think of from Tampa Bay is probably there. And it's not a cheap afternoon.
Mons Venus?
Hey, well, it's in the back. It's in the
Okay.
back. Right. But no, like I said, it was a fun time. The kid in front of me had a sign. It was his birthday. He said, "Here, it's my 12th birthday. Please throw me a ball." Kid left with 6 baseballs.
Really?
Yes, and his poor little brother is sitting there like, "What am I?" And yeah, no, kid left with 6 baseballs. It was crazy.
I'm sure he got one of them.
Oh, maybe. We'll see. No, we won't. I'm never seeing that kid again. But no, it was a good time. Good time. So highly recommend the Rays games. I always forget how much I love baseball, like being at a game. I don't really care who's playing. I following baseball is just not something for me. But
the last game that I went to was a Cubs Mets game.
Okay.
In Chicago, and I saw it in a box suite.
Wow.
And I watched maybe 2 minutes of the game and then drank the rest of the time.
Well, it happens. But no, I like I said, I go to a lot of minor league games. Not lately, but like in my life, I've been to lots of minor league games. So this is my first major league, and it's definitely there's a different energy to it for sure. Some good, some bad. So anyway, last week Brad presented a topic. I think it was politics. Sorry.
Like,
I believe he actually said no politics.
I said no politics.
All right, Brad, what was our topic?
It was comedians, favorite comedians.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And so it's basically free reign to talk about however you want to talk about how you love them, what you think about them, favorite things that they've done. And so I'm going to kick it off with one that I'm pretty sure we both picked, which is Mr. Doubtfire,
okay,
Robin Williams. And for me, I just love his frenetic energy, Mr. Happy. And he's the whole thing where you never know what he's going to say or do. He's like, if he was the god of ADHD and then he screwed the god of cocaine, and then that Robin Williams is the baby. So my favorite things, I mean, of course, I was introduced to him by Mork and Mindy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I remember watching Nick at Night back as a kid.
And then some of the things that I really loved, Good Will Hunting. I remember the first serious thing that I ever saw of his was The World According to Garp, which is just a movie. There's a few movies that I love, but I can only see like once because it is that emotional.
Really?
It takes you on that. Have you seen the movie?
No, I have not.
The World According to Garp, it takes you on this journey of this guy through his life path, through the ups and downs, and it's a journey.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you that. It is one of the most roller coaster movies that I've ever seen. That it's just amazing. It's kind of like more in the vein of, um, oh my God, Forrest Gump,
Okay.
where you see the highs and you see the lows, but whereas with the world according to Garp, there's a lot more lows. Um,
So I couldn't agree more, and you read it right. Robin Williams, I was actually reading a little bio on him, and I didn't realize he had gone to Juilliard and basically left Juilliard out after his junior year because one of his professors told him, like, we can't teach you anymore. He was such a magical performer in terms of his improv skills, his ability to switch voices and characters. It just blew everyone he came into contact with away. And what I remember most about Robin Williams was when I was younger, my dad had this cassette tape of Good Morning Vietnam soundtrack. So you hear all the Adrian Cronauer stuff as he's going through it, and all the characters he did, like, "Ain't you got a window? Open it!" Like, I mean, he just, and again, I'm terrible at doing all the things that he could do, but yeah, he was just a magical performer. From Aladdin, where he wasn't even on screen, you felt that energy when you watched the Aladdin and heard his voice. And when I watched the future, Will Smith live action Aladdin, I couldn't get past, like, that's not Aladdin. That's not Genie.
well, when you've had the king, the person who personifies that character, anyone else, it's just going to be a letdown.
Yeah. I totally agree. And I gotta say, one of the things that I remember most about Robin Williams, and it's kind of sad in a way, but it made me feel very cared for and loved by one of my close friends, is when he passed. If you don't know, he committed suicide. There are rumors that he had been diagnosed with Parkinson's, and there's a lot about his history of depression and things. And my friend called me and said, "Hey man, how you doing? Like, this really made me realize you got to check in on your funny friends, because
Is
it's
that why you call me every day?
no, Brad, no, it's just because I want more wine."
Okay, that
Um,
makes sense.
But no, like, everything the man did, he did 100%. Apparently, when there was a movie with Hugh Grant where, like, there's a baby and he was the doctor. And it turns out, like, he actually really wanted to play the dinosaur because he thought he could do the dinosaur better. And they were like, "No, if you're going to be in this movie, we're actually going to see you, Robin." Like, just a cool guy. I actually had the opportunity to watch, I forget the name of it and I apologize. His final movie that was released during his lifetime was him as, like, an angry old man in New York.
Yes.
And beautiful film. And his delivery, uh, because we know what we know now, was heartbreaking. It was just a wonderful film. Not his most hilarious film. Had some comedy for sure, but just an all around good film. And I highly recommend it if you want to look it up. And Brad, I believe, is looking it up now.
Um, the actual last movie was the Third Night at the Museum movie.
Nope, it
But I
wasn't that
think
one.
you might be talking about The Angriest Man
Yes,
in Brooklyn.
yeah, The Angriest Man in Brooklyn. That was it. And
I guess that's the last one that he didn't play a miniature little person.
probably.
Okay.
So one of my favorite moments of stand up, because I thought we were focusing on stand up here, which Robin Williams, amazing in stand up, just as amazing as he was on film. Was he did this skit on religion, and he's talking about when Mary told Joseph she was pregnant. Mary says, "Joe, I'm pregnant." He goes, "Holy Mary, Mother of God." Mary goes, "Hey, you're right." And he goes, "Jesus Christ." She goes, "Wow, that's a great name."
There's also, I don't know if you know that he and Billy Crystal were in a episode of Friends.
I did not know that.
So they were actually filming, I think it was Father's Day.
Okay.
So they were on the same lot as Friends was being filmed. And so they went on over, and so they improvised a whole scene. And you can catch that, I think, on YouTube, whatnot. But it's hilarious.
I bet. I can't think of a single thing I remember Robin Williams doing that I didn't find some love for. Whether it was his serious acting, his somewhat hysterical acting. I mean, What Dreams May Come. Gosh, how intense was that movie? But just beautiful. And
I remember that was with Cuba Gooding
yes,
Jr.
yes.
I don't think I ever saw that movie.
It's an interesting movie. It kind of goes down a dark path. It's and you if you have a soul, you'll be crying at the end of it.
So you're saying I won't be crying?
I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna go there. What you got next, Brad? I want to see how much overlap we have.
All right, I'm just gonna go straight down the list.
Okay.
While you pour me some more wine.
Oh,
this was really opening up, and it's really good.
Yeah, I like I said, I'm enjoying this. It's well deserving of the 97 they put on their label. I'm a sucker for advertising.
So the next comedian that I have on my list, I don't have a whole lot of notes about him, but he's one of, I think, the most influential comics from the last 50 years or so.
Oh, wow.
It's George Carlin.
Wow, that was also on my list.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually did do a little bit of research on George Carlin, and the most interesting thing to me about George Carlin that I found, there were, he had a history and he has a pretty interesting life, but apparently he was an Air Force radar tech, and he was called by his superior an unproductive airman, was court-martialed 3 times and ultimately discharged. I don't think it was dishonorably, it was just general discharge from the military. So apparently he didn't fit in, and given some of his comedy, I can see why.
Well, I mean, the things he said, he was really in the vein of Lenny Bruce, but I never really, familiarized myself with Lenny Bruce other than what you see on, the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Well, what was interesting is he and Lenny Bruce actually caused a Supreme Court case.
Really?
Yeah. So he and Lenny Bruce got arrested together. Lenny for being obscene, him for just not having his ID. But they got arrested together, and that kind of eventually led into his 7 words you can't say on TV. And Brad, we may have to make this a explicit episode because we're not on TV. Right. Shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, and tits. That was his thing, and
sounds like a normal day for me.
He was later arrested for that in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, at an outdoor festival of some sort, and he actually changed his act and started calling it the Milwaukee 7.
Okay.
For some time, and there was a or radio station that was just having a discussion about this gig and him being arrested and whether morality should be policed and all this stuff. And some guy in Dallas heard it and said, "Oh, my media and matters or whatever, Moms of Liberty, whatever type organization is going to call the FCC." And it triggered a Supreme Court case, which is really pretty amazing for just a guy throwing out comedy.
Now, well, aside from him being on Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Yes.
It was fantastic. But there's a quote that he said that I wanted to share. It says, "Give time to love, give time to speak, and give time to share the precious thoughts in your mind. Life is not measured by the number of breaths we take, but by the moments that take our breath away. Throw out non-essential numbers." So I thought that was pretty cool.
So I think what I loved most about George Carlin, and again, I guess I didn't listen to all comedy or much comedy prior to his generation, but to me, he is kind of the iconic philosophical comic, the guy who could talk to you about really real stuff, like abortion and gay rights and crime and just anything, and be very real and give a philosophy that people bought into. People really bought into it, and you'll hear people today, even you'll be out and somebody will say something George Carlin said, and if you know his comedy, you'll go, "Oh yeah, it's George Carlin." Now, I think that's becoming less common because he was very progressive in his thought. But
Just a bit.
like I said, he was almost a philosopher in a way, and it was beautiful. Like I said, definitely one of my favorites, and another good pick, Brad.
All right.
So I'm gonna go this time since you did too. I'm gonna go with somebody a little newer. Um, this one actually I think is quite new on the scene. But if you're on Facebook and watch Reels and you have comedians in your feed, you've probably seen her. Her name's Ali Wong.
Okay.
She's an Asian American woman. She wears really beautiful dresses, always very like well put together, kind of wild glasses, and her delivery is very, very intense. Like Chris Rock, like back in his day, had a very intense delivery style, and she, like Chris Rock, also makes some pretty bold jokes about Asian Americans that, if I were to say them, might be treated as racist by some. And isn't that one of those interesting things about comedy that, like, there are certain things some people can say and some people can't?
And there's like, you can, there are some things that like Matt Rife can say
Yes,
that any other white person could not,
exactly.
because of the comedy scene that he grew up in.
Well, it's also because he's pretty and people give him a pass.
But he grew up in the comedy scene,
Yes, that's true.
surrounded by black people.
That's true. And but yeah, like I said, Ali Wong is really, really funny. She's got some. She shows up on her YouTube clips, especially her online clips. She's often pregnant, which is really weird. No way a stereotype. I'm just saying it's kind of odd. Like, she's often pregnant, but she's hilarious. She talks about her pregnancy. She talks about things related to her pregnancy. She's like, apparently she was having to go to an office at one point. She has this great gig about how, like, housewives get to shit in their house. They don't have to do it in their office. And she talks about having to use one-ply toilet paper and all these things. And no, she's got some really, really funny stuff. And Ali Wong, worth a look up if you've never heard of her. But a great, great comedian.
All right. I got another one.
Okay.
This is a comedian that I grew up with that is probably one of the weirdest comedians that you'll ever see. That, if you're familiar, like, with Stephen Wright, he would go, yeah, he's kind of weird. And I'm talking about Mr. Prince Valiant Cut himself, Emo Phillips.
Yes, Emo Phillips definitely falls in the weird category, but some great things.
He was the executive producer of Meet the Parents.
I did not know that.
He was in UHF, the movie with Weird Al Yankovic.
I did not know that either.
And he played in the Weird Al Yankovic story. He played with Daniel Radcliffe. He played Salvador Dali.
Oh,
on that.
I can see him doing very well at that.
But so there's a in one of his bits, in one of the newer, and by newer I mean maybe 20 years ago. He talks about, he was married at the time, and he was with his brother-in-law, who's German, and they were at a deli, and his brother-in-law goes, Emo, we can't get a good bagel like this in Germany. And I said, well, whose fault do you think that is?
So it's really funny you brought up Emo Phillips, because I cruise a lot, and there's a comedy club that has quotes from famous comedians, and one of them caught my eye on the last time I was on a cruise. It said, I asked God for a bike, but I know God doesn't work that way, so I stole a bike and asked for forgiveness.
And actually, the quote is, so I just stole one and asked him to forgive me.
Yeah, so as I went through researching the comedians I thought of, one thing that really became clear, because I just massacre any joke that I try to tell, is delivery is everything. I mean, you can't repeat Emo Phillips, Robin Williams. You can't repeat their lines and get the same reaction, because you just can't Can't do it.
So I was probably in 7th, 8th grade, and while everyone else in my drama class was doing like one act things, I was doing Emo Phillips.
Nice.
And
Very nice.
I remember in the first comedy album, I think it's E=MO squared.
Okay.
He goes, probably the toughest time in anyone's life is when you have to murder a loved one because they're the devil. Well, other than that, no, it's been a good day. He's got so many great jokes. He has jokes about seeing a man on the Golden Gate Bridge, and the man looks like a horse. So he has a lot of things like, why the long face?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and then he goes into this whole diatribe about, you know, are you a religious person? And then he goes back and forth, like going further and further down the line of what path he was on. Like, are you what are you a Christian? Yes, I'm a Christian. Well, what franchise? Oh, I'm a Baptist, Northern Baptist or Southern Baptist. He keeps going further and further, further until the very end, where Emo just goes, die heretic, and he pushes him off because he just didn't agree with him.
You've gone too far.
Yeah. So love Emo. I saw him perform. I was living in the West Palm Beach area at the time, so that must have been around 2002, 2003. And I still have his Michael Jackson style shirt, the red shirt.
Yeah, I remember that shirt.
And, well, I have it. Excuse me. He had such a hard time signing that shirt. He was pissed off that he had to sign that shirt. And he signed it. He said, I think it was, please use the powers of the shirt for good rather than evil.
Nice. Very nice.
And I got that framed. So, because I think that, a lot of times people get things to sign to increase the value. But for me, it's a personal thing. And it's something that it's for me. I don't care. I'm not going to resell it.
Yeah. Like, I'd almost rather have something like with a personal message than just a signature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What do you got next?
All right. So another guy who, in my opinion, is the he wasn't, I don't know that I'd call him like the greatest comedian, but he had his own style that was pretty unique. And he did a lot of those one-liners that you really just, you just died laughing. It's Mitch Hedberg.
Okay. Oh my God. Yeah, I can't believe I forgot him.
If you've never seen Mitch Hedberg, he presented almost as like a Spicoli style dropout on stage. He had a joke that was like, people think I'm high up here, but like, who wants to get high and stand in front of a room full of people? Ironically, he did pass of an overdose. Sadly, he passed on March 30th. And even though, who's the radio guy, the big, popular New York, like did the obscene stuff? Who's the radio? Howard Stern.
Yeah.
Reported it. It went largely unnoticed until April 1st. And when it went like viral, I guess at the time, people thought it was an April Fool's joke because it was like, oh yeah. But no, he had some really great ones. Things like rice is great if you're really hungry and want to eat 2,000 of something.
Mm-hmm. I'm not going to be able to, do his delivery because I haven't listened to it.
Delivery is special.
But he's like, an escalator can never break. It can only become stairs. You should never see an escalator temporarily at a order sign. Just escalator temporarily stairs. Sorry for the inconvenience.
Yeah, or like when someone hands you a flyer, it's like they're saying, here, you throw this away.
My friend asked me if I wanted a frozen banana. I said no, but I want a regular banana later, so yeah.
Depressing thing about tennis is no matter how good I get, I'll never be as good as a wall.
Is a hippopotamus or just a really cool hippopotamus?
Yeah, so if you haven't heard of Mitch Hedberg, worth a look up. Just amazing delivery, amazing style, and really fun. I actually did see him. One of the few comedy shows I've gone to
Really?
see live. It was him and Lewis Black, who was
Oh
also
my God, Lewis Black.
also
Yeah.
Lewis Black was probably one of the best anger comedians. There are certain comedians who really just like go over the top on their anger just to make it funny, and Lewis Black was really great at that. Sam Kinison, another one that was
Yeah.
yeah. So but no, Mitch Hedberg.
I haven't slept for 10 days because that would be too long. I got to listen to more hits.
I like to play blackjack. I'm not addicted to gambling. I'm addicted to sitting in a semicircle.
I gotta listen.
Yeah, we could go on all night on that one.
Yeah, you know, you look marvelous. You look marvelous, darling. You know, my father used to say to me, Fernando, it's better to look good than to feel good. Feel good, my darling. And that's Billy Crystal.
Oh.
Billy Crystal, who portrayed Fernando on Fernando's Hideaway on Saturday Night Live. And then he was in some of the best movies. When Harry Met Sally, Analyze This.
What was the one where the Dude Ranch?
Oh my God, I forgot about that one.
It'll come to me. Great movie.
But I was introduced to him more as a comedian first.
He was in The Princess Bride.
He was.
Yes. In fact, apparently he was so funny that they had to like get a dummy in for Carrie Elways because he couldn't stop laughing. Like,
Really?
He could not, like, literally could not keep himself from laughing. It was so funny.
Well, I mean, with him and Carol Kane,
yeah,
in the same scene,
mm-hmm.
That's just insane.
Yeah. So yeah, great film.
I need more wine.
All right, man.
This is really good.
Yeah, like I said, Matilda Nieves. It says Mencía. I again still don't know anything about it. I'm gonna look it up later. Sorry, I was not prepared, but
yeah,
highly recommend.
All right. What do you got next?
All right, so this one's a little interesting and maybe not the most popular, but one I just have always loved is Eddie Izzard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he apparently now goes by Susie Eddie Izzard. You often see him in a dress, not always. He wears what he wants.
Or her now?
Him or her. He actually said once of his wearing dresses, I don't call it drag. I don't even call it cross-dressing. It's just wearing a dress. It's not about artifice. It's about me expressing myself. And I think that's a really beautiful way to look at things. Like, you know, he just wore what he wanted to wear. And if he felt like wearing a dress, he wore a dress. I've seen him recently in recent stuff wearing a suit. So I think he's just kind of who he is, and he does what he wants and doesn't feel ashamed about it, which I think we could all do with a little more.
Yeah. He's just a fantastic comedian, actor. I'm going to blame the wine on me not being... Wait, he was in a show with Marissa Tomei.
Yes, he was.
That was fantastic.
Yeah,
where I think they played gypsies.
Possibly, I can't remember. I know what you're talking about. I see the two of them
about
together
10 years ago, but that was one that I wished it had gone on, but didn't, unfortunately.
But an interesting thing about Eddie Izzard, he's apparently like repeatedly done these stints where he does like multiple marathons in a very short period of time. In 2009, for an organization called Sport Relief, which is kind of linked to the Comic Relief group, he ran 43 marathons in 51 days. He took Sundays off. Yeah, and he had only trained for like 5 weeks. He's like, and he didn't
That's
run.
insane.
I think he like walked them mostly, but he did them, which is pretty amazing. And then in 2016, he did 27 marathons in 27 days for in honor of Nelson Mandela's years in prison.
Wow.
So neat thing. Just a cool guy. Some of the gigs that I really liked of his, he talked about intelligent design. He's like, yeah, you know, it used to be creationism, and then we were like, oh, we're going to call it intelligent design. He's like, nothing about our design is intelligent. Like, none of it. He's like, you know, it's like, oh, well, like, human waste. Like, why do we do that? He's like, why not just eat food and do stuff instead of pooping and peeing? Like, we don't need to poo and pee. Like, that's wasteful. Why would we do that? He's like, that's where, like, disease comes from. We don't need to do that. If it was intelligent, we wouldn't be doing that. He goes into, like, the appendix and, you know, like, Like, why would we have this if it was intelligent? He's just got some really good stuff. One of my favorites is the Star Trek. He talks about how, like, the one thing we have from Star Trek, everything else is like, oh, warp drives. Yeah, we don't have that. But the doors is like whoosh, opening
Right.
and closing.
Right.
He's like, yeah, we got that. That's
No, we
really
have
about it.
the phone, the communicators too.
Yeah, we do. We do actually. Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
That's fair. Okay. Well, there you go. Look at that. He also does a great gig on the Death Star canteen where Darth Vader, like, because he's like, you never see people eating in the Death Star,
Right.
and he's like, imagine what it's like. The Darth Vader goes in, he's like, and the person's like, hey, you need a tray. He's like, I am Darth Vader. I don't need a tray. He's like, no, it's hot food. You need a tray. Oh, okay. Like, it's just like great gig. Again, I'm ruining it.
Couldn't Darth Vader just levitate the food?
Yeah, you would think, but no. Like I said, great guy, Eddie Izzard. Lots of fun, and one of my top comedians for sure.
All right.
All right, and I am out of comedians, so anything I say from here on out is just riffing off of you, man.
Well, my next comedian has a delivery that kind of goes like this. You knew him as the guy on the couch on Half Bake. And one of his jokes says, if at first you don't succeed, then skydiving definitely isn't for you.
Nice.
Talking about Stephen Wright.
Stephen Wright was good.
He was also the DJ on Reservoir Dogs.
Really?
Yes.
Trying to remember that voice. I'll have to check it out. I haven't seen Reservoir Dogs in some year.
Oh my God, Reservoir Dogs is a classic. And I mean, they got him just to do the DJ voice on there, which is just.
I love it when there's a role that they're like, we must get this guy. Like, this is our guy.
He was a guy on a couch.
Yeah.
On Half Bake.
Yeah.
Half Bake. He also says, whenever I think of the past, it brings back so many memories. Another one was, I think it's wrong that only one company makes the game Monopoly.
I actually do have another comedian that I want to bring up.
Talk to me.
And this is the Betty White.
Oh my God.
And I'll be honest, like, she's funny any way you approach her. And her comedian often got raunchy. And she actually very much wanted to play Blanche on the Golden Girls. Yes. However, her Rose on the Golden Girls, just like, it touches my heart every time I see her, and she was just so funny. Honestly, all of them were just amazing.
She was great on that. She was great on the show that was later on with Kirstie Alley, where she played. Basically, it was 3 women. It was Kirstie Alley. It was the English woman who was on Frasier. And I
know you're talking about.
So they ended up from L.A. They ended up in Milwaukee, I think it was, and it was Betty White's house.
Oh, okay.
And they were tenants, and she was a feisty old broad.
Well, hey, she was a feisty old broad till the day she died.
Yeah.
She just had kind of like Robin Williams, just in a different way. She had this energy and this enthusiasm for life that you rarely see just in anyone. And definitely one of my favorites and worth a mention.
Now, speaking of feisty old broads,
don't talk about your mom. I mean, you can talk about your mom if you want.
Well,
I've never actually met Brad's mom.
Yeah, because he ditched her.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a date and he refused to show up. And she said, that's okay, I have standards.
Yeah.
But speaking of feisty old broads, feisty dead broads, Joan Rivers.
Oh, you know what? I thought about Joan Rivers, but honestly, she just wasn't my bag. Like, she had a lot of energy. She had a lot of character. It just, like, her stand-up never just did it for me. Her red carpet stuff was pretty fun.
Spaceballs.
Yeah. All right. She had her moments.
She had lines like, my vagina is like Newark. Men know it's there, but they don't want to visit. Or, you want to get Cindy Crawford confused? Ask her to spell mom backwards. So, aside from Spaceballs, the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel was loosely inspired by Joan Rivers.
If you haven't seen The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, it's amazing. It is so good. Such a great show, and as Brad mentioned, it highlights a friendship with Lenny Bruce. Really good show.
Next one I have on my list is the Toastmaster General, Jeff Ross.
I'm not penning Jeff Ross, man.
Well, who said at the Pamela Anderson roast, "How is it that Courtney Love looks worse than Kurt Cobain right now?" And so
That's
basically,
rough. That's rough.
He is the king of roasts.
Okay.
By the way, we have tickets to see him at the end of the month next month.
Okay.
In October, I bought 2 tickets.
All right. Well, let's do it. Then I'll know who Jeff Ross is.
Yes. So you got to do some research. Watch any roast. The guy is hilarious. And now moving on to a good friend of his, Gilbert Gottfried.
Yeah, Gilbert Gottfried. It took me a long time to get to where I could deal with like the voice.
The voice.
It was too much. Like when I was younger, I just couldn't get past it. But in time, I developed a love for it, and I don't hate Gilbert much.
That was just a voice he did. I've known his wife Dara since I was a little kid.
Oh wow.
I haven't seen her since I was little, but we've kept in touch. The family has kept in touch. Her parents were very good friends with my parents, especially my father. And so we used to hang out at a mutual friend, Joel's house, growing up. And so I actually, when Dara and Gilbert were dating, I had a chance to see Gilbert. I want to say he was performing in Broward County or Tampa or something like that, and I was in Miami at the time. This was before GPS, and my sense of direction sucked. And so I said, you know, I'm gonna pass, but I'm gonna get him next time, and I never got to see him.
Oh, jeez.
So, but I loved his scene in like Beverly Hills Cop. He played Sidney Bernstein.
Yes.
He's like, over here we have $200. Over here we have the tickets. You have this? I don't know where it is. It's gone. You know,
somebody else we touched on. I don't mean to move on too quickly there, but another one we touched on but didn't really go into, and this is again a more modern comedian, is Matt Rife. Like,
yeah,
he to me, his real charm is his ability to interact with an audience. His comedy's pretty good, but he gets up on stage, and if you've ever gone online and watched some of his audience interactions, they're just amazing. And that's the thing is, comedians will tell you, like, the reason they interact so much with the audience, and they'll deal with hecklers and they'll deal with this, is because that's what people are actually paying for. Like, anybody can buy a CD of any comedian and be like, oh, I look at this, I got his gig. I got the 7 dirty words you can't say on TV. But you can't reproduce how Matt Rife deals with the drunk lady in row 3 or the asshole in row 7.
Well, so at the Hugh Hefner roast, Gilbert Gottfried told a joke about how he had a ticket. He was on a flight to go to Los Angeles, but there was a detour by way of the Empire State Building.
Okay.
And this was right after 9/11.
Okay.
And so he immediately got booed. So
I could see. Yeah.
So he kind of went, all right, I can't take it in that direction, so I'm going to take it in the whole other direction. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard the aristocrats joke.
It's been a long time.
So it's, this family walks into the talent agent's office, and that's about as far as I can tell, because it is the raunchiest joke you could ever
I'll have to Google
tell. And they actually made a documentary about the joke, because it's a joke that before that it was comedians told to other comedians behind the scenes
Oh, okay.
to see how far they could take it. And you have, you know, Gilbert Gottfried on stage going, and the sister is doing this to the brother, and doing this to the father, and doing this to the dog.
Wow.
And I mean, just taking it off.
Hey, if you're gonna give me shit about one joke,
Right.
I'm gonna go all in.
Exactly. And it was one of those things where you just, yeah, you had to laugh.
Yeah.
About his audacity.
Yeah, I think that comedy is one of those things where, especially stand up, but really, we need to laugh. Laughing is healthy. It's good for us. And while I do think there are things that read the room, you don't say certain things in certain company, and some things you just better off not to say in any company. But I do think that a lot of it is, get that the guy was trying to sound funny, and sometimes later you go, hey man, like that really wasn't cool. Like, don't say that. But I do think sometimes we overreact to comedy.
Oh, 100%. There's so many times where I think that we react based on how other people are going to perceive it rather than ourselves.
Yeah.
We don't want to be the ones to go, haha, that's funny, and then other people go, that's wrong.
Yeah. Now, I mean, again, sometimes you can take it too far. The Kramer guy, like just losing his mind.
Richards. Yeah.
Like you don't have to do that. You don't have to say that. But the other day I was watching a clip of a comedian, and he's talking about how somebody came to him and said, well, you can't say midget on the show because that's just as offensive as the N-word. And he's like, now I think it's not really as offensive as the N-word because, like, you won't even say the N-word here, and you're willing to say midget here.
Well, that's because how many midgets are going to kick your ass?
I'm not going there, Brad. I'm not going there.
Hey, really?
Yeah. No, I mean, hey, you know what? I actually think Peter Dinklage could take me. He's a tough-looking dude. Yeah. I mean, I saw him in Game of Thrones.
All right. Moving on. Dave Chappelle.
Wow, like great comedian. Weird, like life path. Like he seemed like he was at the top, and then he just kind of disappeared.
Well, I think it's because at that point in time, he kind of felt that he was being put on a pedestal and told what he has to do, and his life was kind of being taken away from him.
I can see that.
But his intro, to my knowledge, was Nutty Professor.
Really? I did not realize that.
Did you see Nutty Professor?
Yeah, but I don't remember. I don't remember much about it.
Do you remember the nightclub scene with the comedian? And where
it wasn't my favorite.
So the you have Eddie Murphy's character, the professor, before he changed.
Okay.
He was.
Oh, was he the one that was making fun of Eddie Murphy's character? Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, of course, being in Half Baked, and one of my favorite scenes in the Chappelle Show was the racial draft.
Well, I really like the one where they finally get reparations, and he pulls up and he's bought the truckload of Cools and
right.
Like, I mean,
I'm rich, bitch.
The thing is, like, this is that thing where, talking about certain comedians, like, there are jokes that they can tell that we can't. Like Chris Rock, I remember The Office, where what's his name? Who's the guy that's the boss?
Steve Carell.
Steve Carell starts, like, they're in the DEI training basically, and he starts telling Chris Rock jokes, like thinking,
oh yeah,
and it's like you can't do that, and it's such an interesting thing that, like, there are jokes that we can't even repeat because it's not appropriate for us to do so.
Yeah. But I mean, Dave Chappelle, that whole racial draft, the Jewish coalition wants Lenny Kravitz. Yeah. And how the commentary was hilarious. Like, we thought they may have gone with Madonna. Next, I have the precursor to Dave Chappelle, Eddie Murphy.
You know, you mentioned Eddie Murphy, and I was like, you know, he was almost on my list. And yes, he did some amazing stand-up, but what really stood out most to me for him was the movies. And I didn't know much about his stand-up, so I left him off of my list.
I knew him. I knew him from SNL first.
Yeah,
obviously.
Yeah, he had some great
I mean,
SNL characters.
Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Gumby, damn it. You've got Little Richard Simmons.
I forgot about that one.
You know, you've got it's raining, honey, it's pouring, and to make matters worse, my love life is boring me to tears. It's been such a long time. After all these years, my thighs are starting to bulge. I just can't take it anymore. No day, no moon night, no da, no Dana moment. Me don't Dana chance. Buckwheat, is that you? So I mean that whole thing, hilarious. I back talking about the scenes that I used to do in drama. I did a scene from Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood back then. You've got, and then you've got movies. You've got The Nutty Professor.
Yeah.
You've got Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah. Apparently, they made a recent. Like, didn't they make a new one recently?
A
Beverly Hills Cop. Wasn't there like
they
a new?
Did. I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
yet.
I haven't seen it. I just.
But his comedy is hilarious.
Yeah.
You've got the whole thing about the about his aunt being a Bigfoot. You know, you didn't get her from Puerto Rico. She's a Bigfoot, damn it. You know?
You know who else is coming to mind? Now that you mentioned, you know, talking about other comedians who were big in movies is and honestly, possibly one of the best physical comedians after Jerry Lewis, I would say, is the animal cop. Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey.
Oh, Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying when you said animal. I thought you were talking about John. Oh my God, my brain's not working right now. From Animal House.
Oh, John Belushi.
John Belushi.
Yeah, or that was that Jim or John?
No, because John Belushi.
John
Jim
Belushi.
is the brother.
Jim's the younger. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, you know, Jim Carrey, like, I remember when The Mask came out, and what was the name of that show? Where he's like the animal police?
Living Color.
Well, yeah, in Living Color, he had the Fire Marshal Bill,
yeah,
and everything. But no, the movie, it was a Pet Detective.
Oh, yeah, Ace Ventura.
Ace Ventura. Like, I mean, just his ability to do facial expressions and move his body around is just unreal.
He's elastic.
Yeah, I watched a movie recently with him in it, and like he like adopts a family of penguins. Weird movie, but it was very cute and charming, and it was just wow. Like, that guy can just, the things he can do with his face and his body are incredible.
That movie that he did, where the Truman Show.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. Yeah, that one. Now, a lot of that was the writing, I think, but still, he did an amazing job.
And you can't talk about famous comedians without mentioning Richard Pryor.
Yeah. Now,
the toy is something that I've had a lot of people decry, but it's absolutely fucking, pardon my language, racist, but it's a great movie.
But, you know, I think a lot of Richard Pryor's, like, when I think about, like, Brewster's Millions and things like that, and the toy.
I love Brewster's Millions.
He was of that line of George Carlin, where he was just trying to, like, he was doing these things to try to, like, point it out.
It wasn't pushing the envelope.
Right. It wasn't just to be a pawn. He was trying to make a point, and the movies at that time could seem a little racist. Like, we talked about Blazing Saddles not too long ago.
Yeah.
Like, God, like, the things that they say in that film, like, again, you could not get it made today.
He was originally supposed to be in Blazing Saddles.
I think I heard that.
He was supposed to be. He ended up being a consultant, and I think he helped write for Blazing Saddles, but he couldn't be in the movie itself.
But no, like I said, yeah,
he was going to be the Cleavon Little.
I agree. Richard Pryor was great. Another one from that generation, Steve Martin.
Oh yeah.
You
The
know,
Jerk.
The Jerk. I
I
always
was born a poor black boy.
that and How to Be a Millionaire.
Yeah.
Get $1 million.
Um, my final comedian is a more recent comedian, and this is someone that you won't see in movies, at least that I think. But this guy is another in that self-deprecating vein,
Okay.
very morbid. Uh, Anthony Jeselnik.
I have never heard of him.
So I actually got some of his stand-up here, uh, and he says, "When I was a kid, my friends and I got arrested for vandalizing a graveyard. $10,000 in damages, but we had a great lawyer who knocked it down to criminal trespassing and necrophilia. When I was a kid, my parents had a gun. My parents said we had to have a gun. Got to have a gun to protect their 5 children. Of course, they eventually got rid of it to protect their 4 children. I'm not going to lie, it was fun while it lasted. I was getting pretty good towards the end." He says, "One of my next door neighbors is a 90-year-old man suffering from Alzheimer's. Every single morning at 9 a.m., he knocks on my door and he asks me if I've seen his wife, which means that every single morning at 9 a.m., I have to explain to a 90-year-old man suffering from Alzheimer's that his wife has been dead for quite some time. Now, I've thought about moving. I've thought about not answering my door in the morning, but to be honest, it's worth it just to see the smile on his face."
That is great.
Now, one of my favorites is, "My ex-girlfriend owned a parakeet. Oh my god, that fucking thing would never shut up. But the bird was cool."
On that note, I'm not even going to ask about anything else about the topic because I think we covered that one pretty well.
I think we did.
So our next episode's topic is going to be a little more serious.
Oh god.
Politics.
Fuck off.
Just kidding. Brad says no politics. So we're going to talk about dealing with difficult people, which is a skill you might need in politics. But we are going to talk about dealing with difficult people at work.
Yes.
So that is our next episode's topic. Brad, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with the group?
I've had half a bottle of wine, so my thoughts are kind of quite gone. I will finalize with another joke that I had with Anthony Jeselnik.
Okay.
Whenever I meet a pretty girl, the first thing I look for is intelligence. Because if she doesn't have that, then she's mine.
That's great. All right.
But I think other than that, I'm solid.
Well, I am all out of thoughts as well. Please check us out on Apple and Spotify podcasts.
And YouTube.
Under Wine, Whiskey, and Words, as well as YouTube. Email is wine, whiskey, and word. S was taken. At gmail.com. And our website, winewhiskeyandwords.com. We hope you enjoyed, and we look forward to seeing you next episode. Come have a drink with us.
Cheers.
Cheers.
And feel free to email us with any comments you have. Leave any feedback. If there's any topics that you want us to talk about, please let us know. We'll be happy to either accept them or tell you you're an idiot.
You're so mean, Brad.
That was in the script.
Okay, well, wrap it up.
All right.
Have a good one.